everyone, this is your video for Tuesday night, September 8th, and it is about scale, proportion, and harmony, which are three principles of design. So the first one we'll talk about here is scale. Be sure you're writing these down. Scale is the relative size of an object in relation to other objects in a room. Please underline other objects in a room because the next word we talk about is proportion, and they're very similar, but that is the difference between them. Scale is relation to other objects in a room. Okay? When furniture is scaled to the space it occupies, it is visually pleasing. So in a big room, you want big furniture. In a very small room, you want small furniture because that makes sense. Furnishings should be in scale with one another. So this picture is a great example of bad scale. Look at the size of this clock. No, that's the size of clock for a room the size of a gym. Like that's crazy. That's ridiculous. Ironically, the clocks in the gym are, tiny. But so that clock is out of scale for the room. However, the other objects in the room are to scale for the room. They are correct size for that room. Here are some good examples. So these objects are all the same size compared to their partner, but they are what we call different visual weights. So visual weight is how heavy or how light something looks compared to other objects that are the same. So when you choose a scale of something for a room, you should consider the visual weight when choosing it. So a wooden chair and an upholstered chair maybe have the same dimensions, but the upholstered chair will look larger and heavier. If you don't know the word upholstered, that means it's covered in fabric. Like these cow print chairs are covered in fabric and this chair is covered in fabric. They are upholstered. So like these cakes are an excellent example. You can see that they are exactly the same. The icing dripping is even exactly the same, but one is dark and one is light. The darker one definitely shows up more. It looks to have heavier visual weight. These chairs, again, we can tell they are exactly the same chair. They're both covered in cow print. One is darker and one is lighter though, and we can see that. The darker one is definitely more obvious in the room. It has heavier visual weight. This is a little more obscure example here, but both of these chairs are navy blue. They are both roughly the same size, like their seat height is the same. But because of the upholstered chair, the one on the right that's covered in fabric, it is more solid and it is thicker. So it looks heavier visual weight compared to the little metal chair because it's kind of see-through and it's kind of thin. Even though our brain knows that metal is heavy, we put those two facts together. So even though we know that, we perceive that upholstered chair as having a heavier visual weight because it just takes up more in the space. So here is proportion. And I didn't underline what I need you to underline here, crap. Proportion is the relationship between a whole object and one of its parts. That's what you should underline here. The relationship between a whole object and one of its parts. Whole object and one of its parts. So lamps are an excellent example of a whole object that has multiple parts. Because with a lamp, you have the lamp base and the lamp shade. Okay? And it can be many examples, but I don't know if I'll talk about that or not. So, for example, if I took all of these lamp shades off and mixed them all around and then put them all back on different lamps, it would look goofy. So picture, if you can, this little white lampshade on this tall black and silver lamp base. It would be about the size of the way where I'm moving my mouse around right now. Like that looks goofy. That is out of proportion. Not to be mistaken with scale. We're not going to use a scale because we're not talking about an entire room. We're talking about just pieces of a little thing. Because that's our difference between scale and proportion. Whole room to one item. So a little lampshade would look goofy on this big lamp base. This big lampshade would look goofy on this little lamp base. Those would be out of proportion. Or you could apply this to like a person. What if you had a 5-year-old with, like size 12 shoes, size 12 feet? Their feet, which is a part of the whole body, would be out of proportion. Or if someone's wearing an extra, extra large shirt and they're a very extra small person, that's out of proportion. The parts to the whole. Now, I'm not going to talk about this too much because we are going to have a whole nother video about this tomorrow night. No, the next night. So proportion can also be described as a ratio, which is one part to another part, which we just said is like a part of a whole, or part of two things that are like directly related to each other, like a coffee table relates to the couch that you buy. You pick those things together to make sure they're the right size for each other. So all you need to write down is that sentence, and that our three ratios that we're ever going to be concerned with are 2 to 3, 3 to 5, and 5 to 8. And I'm not going into detail about that here. Save it for Thursday. All right, our third principle of design for today is harmony. Harmony is made up of two pieces, unity and variety. There's like two types of harmony. But when you kind of have both together, you get harmony in a way. So when the elements and the principles of design are used together to create a pleasing design, you have harmony. So whether you're talking about unity part of harmony or the variety part of harmony, either way, you're using all of the elements of design. It's kind of an all-encompassing word. That's not the right thing I'm looking for using the elements of design. Things go together without a boring or a chaotic look. Like it should be a perfect in between harmony. If you are a music person, you know that when you're in harmony, it means that like all of your, forgive me if I use the wrong terms, all of your like notes are kind of like evened each other out, making like one beautiful sound together. Or if you do sports, whatever, it's like being in sync with each other, like everything just like goes as planned. It's like a perfect medium, it just executed perfectly. So you could relate harmony to lots of other things, not just design, but it's that perfect happy medium where the design is just perfect and it's harmonious. So the first part of harmony is unity, which you could have, and this is totally a preference thing, but it is when you have all parts of a design related by one idea. I like to describe this as extremely matchy-matchy. Which, look at this room. Like, I can't tell if this is a real room or like a computer generated room. It's like it's so matchy-matchy that it makes me nervous. But look at it. Like, everything is perfect. They're exactly the same on both sides. Like, I'm just staring at it. It's just perfectly unified. It's like twins, identical twins. That's a good way to think of it. That's like unity. Whereas variety is when like the room's tied together, but it's kind of all over the place. So this is a good example. Variety is when a change is made in the unity, making it more interesting. Add some variety is like a term or a phrase that you've probably heard before in your life. To add some variety, that means to like spoof it up, make it a little more funky. So you can see that there's like some funkiness in this room. We've got like several different patterns happening, but they've stuck with one color scheme, this accented neutral color scheme. to make it have a variety and not be like 100% unified. So harmony is where it's somewhere in between. So harmony is when unity and variety happens. This picture right here is a great example. To achieve harmony, have some elements of design that are unified, and then pick one or two elements to vary within the space, so that it's not perfectly unified. And then if you lean towards variety, then you should like tame it back a little bit, and that's how you achieve a perfect harmony. Now, you don't have to achieve a perfect harmony. That might not be your style. That's not like a requirement all the time, but you may want to if that's what your client's looking for or if that's what you're looking for. So the reason that this picture is like the perfect example of harmony is because based on like the color scheme, it's very much a neutral color scheme. It is very much unity. Because everything matches perfectly. They did not stray away from their color scheme at all here. They even have like some pictures that go together, and these two that go together. They have matching pillows here. Like it's very harmonious, but they've got that variety piece in there too, where it's got that little bit of funk to it. Because they've got some like off-centered things happening. It's not perfectly symmetrical. They've also got like all of these pictures, they don't all match perfectly, or there's not just this one big one. Like they've went above and beyond and branched out a little bit by adding all of these other pictures around the one simple big one. If you can like take your hands and like cover all the surrounding pictures on the screen, and take them away, you basically have unity. You add them back and you get you've added the variety. So together you've got the unity and the variety. So this room, therefore, is harmony. I think that's it. Okay, that is it. So make sure you wrote all this stuff down. That's 3 of our 6 principles of design. So that's like half of it. You've only got one left to learn about. And we will talk about it in 2 days. Thanks, guys.